Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to the Dafa discussions. Welcome back, Louis. How are you, my brother?
I'm good, Michael. Welcome, everyone.
Guys, every every episode, obviously, and with all of the new smaller pieces that we're putting on, basically just thoughts that we're having during the day at work that are really good, that give you further and further insight into two major things. Falun Gong is incredibly beautiful. It's an amazing thing, beautiful. And the genocide that the Chinese Communist regime is wreaking upon it is probably one of the most evil acts ever committed on our planet in our history. And so we're we're always trying to give you guys a really good insight into um, the general nature of what it's like to be a practitioner. And with the whether it be the Ganjing World account or the YouTube account or the other ones that we're about to start, when you go in there, before you would simply see our weekly show, which Louis and I do, and we'll have guests on here very soon. We're just getting ramped up, basically. We're just getting organised. Even to do something this simple is a bit of work behind the scenes, but we're getting there. Mainly Louis is getting there because he's the genius of the two of us.
We're all working hard. We've all
But
got day jobs.
yeah, that's it. And we're both gardeners.
Yeah.
The two of us are gardeners, would you believe? I mean, you could probably see it by my cap. Um, so anyway, getting back to the point. Now, on the on the accounts, on the website, you'll you will have seen just before episode one, episode two. Now we're putting in we're putting in what's called it's collections, isn't it, Louis? In
Yeah.
Teaching World, collections. We're putting in videos and incredible pieces of information that have been made by places like um, media in America that have been made, actually created by people like me and Louis, who are Falun Dafa practitioners. And to cut a really long story short, basically because the practices helped our hearts to really open up, to just become better people. Some people like us have actually started media, usually Chinese practitioners from China who are quite wealthy in their own natural, beautiful right. Um, and they've decided to use their wisdom, knowledge, and their own finances to start media. And one of the things that is in media, quite prevalently these days is false information. And so, of course, they've gone ahead and made media with the focus of true information, the old style journalism. So, places like this have made a huge amount of incredible materials that help to highlight exactly what the persecution of Falun Gong is all about. But, of course, because they're made professionally, sometimes these days, and even I've been prone to look at some things that I've seen on Facebook, etc., and just think, is that real? Is that just another piece of false information made in a really nice way to steer a certain thought or thinking or understanding of a certain entity or whatever country? And so these articles, these videos are a powerhouse of true information. And what what Louis and I want to do is bring them into our show, the Dafa discussions, have them there for you in collections. So one of the tabs on the Ganjing World account is collections, and we'll be putting more and more in there under different tabs within that to really help once you see us and once you can really just get to know us and you can make up your own minds that, yeah, these two blokes probably have a really good few points for me to take in. Go in and get a look at these things. Okay, myself and Louis will mention them each show just very quickly, not like I am now because we've only just popped them in. And talking about those collections, one of them that I put in last night is incredibly powerful. It's a Chinese lady who's definitely a practitioner, Falun Gong, who has taken an incredibly powerful letter that a mayor of an American city has sent back to a request from the Consul General of China in I think it was Los Angeles consulate, had written to him, and you can bet your life they wrote it to every single parliamentarian under the sun, including ours in Australia and yours wherever you are. And from what I remember, Louis and I have listened to it twice now. From what I remember, what this consul general of the Chinese communist regime has said to this guy is, we don't want you to support in any way or recognize Falun Gong. Remembering that China has massive, massive, massive trade with every government of the world, around the world. And so, like Louis and I keep exemplifying and showing and sharing our own experiences of, the regime for a long, 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 long time has been pushing the governments of our world and the big corporations and the huge businesses of our worlds to really go against. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this video, and I want you guys to listen because the woman's voice is superb, and she's got the letter. She's got the letter on the video right there, right there. She's just reading from it. It's quite an experience. And then Louis and I'll have a chat to you afterwards about some of our own experiences as well. But I'll hand it over to Louis because he's got a couple of things to share about a current situation as well.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. So we briefly mentioned in the last episode that the CCP has begun a new global campaign to kind of undermine the influence that Falun Dafa practitioners have made in the United States and in other countries, and they're doing this for a number of reasons. So the media entities that the Falun Dafa practitioners have started to share the truth and kind of combat the misinformation and the psychological warfare that the CCP uses to mislead people and lie about what Falun Dafa really is. They're trying to kind of blur the lines and confuse people and lie, take things out of context or create certain narratives around different projects that Falun Dafa practitioners are working on to help people understand what's going on in China. So most recently, they've kind of gone to various lengths, including making bomb threats to Shenyun, which is a dance company started by Falun Dafa practitioners, different venues where they're performing, trying to stop the performance. They've resorted to like threats of violence, sending practitioners involved in that project, threats of violence, and also trying to use social media and Western media like the New York Times to try and create a narrative that Falun Dafa is a cult or is something nefarious that And in a future episode, we'll get more in detail about what they're actually doing. But it also involves something like this story that Michael's talking about, which we'll show you in a minute, of reaching out to the governments of different countries and trying to influence the politics to export their persecution of Falun Dafa into our freedom-loving countries like America or Australia. So,
Can I jump in for 2 seconds there, Lou?
mm,
I just thought of something, everyone. And it'll take 2 seconds, and please take this to heart. My father-in-law, he was practicing Falun Gong before I was, and he basically became my father-in-law. Beautiful story, but that's for another time. And you'll see by the video we're about to show you, this effort, this global massive effort that the CCP has been doing has been going for a long, long time. They're just not quitting because their genocide, their attempted genocide of the practitioners of Falun Gong in China, it's honestly, it's the evil that they're terrified of everyone knowing, because they know that when more and more people know, millions upon millions already know, but as more and more people know, their chances of having any influence anywhere are zip, absolutely zip, of course. So anyway, my father-in-law, Des, he, like me, has been putting in his own time, his own effort, like all Falun Gong practitioners around the world ever since this persecution started, have been doing to try to lessen the severity of the deaths and the tortures and the organ harvesting in China, of Falun Gong in China. Try to lessen it, try to really keep telling the world about what's going on. Before Des was my father-in-law, he actually took me in. I'd changed states. I'd moved from one state to another here in Australia. And he had heard through the grapevine that I didn't have a place to stay. And he just contacted me directly, got my details, contacted me directly, and said, "You come and stay with me, bud." So, anyway, long story short, I'm there one night. I would have been there for about a month. And he turns around to me and he says, "Do you know how serious this effort from the Chinese government is getting?" He said, "One night I came home. Um, I saw that my back sliding door was open." And so he said he freaked out and he just turned on all the lights and then made his way upstairs. You can imagine if you think someone's in your house, you end up like a ninja. And he's gone upstairs and he's gone into the computer room. And on his computer is a picture of a guy who's had his throat slit and his tongue pulled out. Like, I think they call it, from what I've seen in movies, a Colombian necktie. As you can imagine, it was a real one, grotesque, absolutely grotesque. And he had had his laptop smashed and a few other things. They'd gone through everything. Once he got onto his computer to see what was going on, they had just annihilated all of the efforts he'd made to make banners, banner designs to get printed so that he could put them up that speaks about what's going on with the Chinese government's persecution. Just imagine if that happened to your family. Just imagine it. Imagine it now. Your sons and daughters in your house, your wife, your husband. So this has been happening for a long time, and practitioners like Louis and I, who, like I keep saying, you know, we are practicing something this beautiful and this powerfully healing, and this government will do anything to try to have, and they have had a certain success, obviously, because they're a trillionaire, squillionaire communist regime. They will do anything to make you believe that good people are bad and that a beautiful spiritual practice that benefits everyone, takes nothing and gives everything, is bad. So I just thought I'd mention that. Thanks, Louis.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah. We can get into the video now if you think it's good time.
If I can just be quiet for a moment.
No. No, you filled in the blanks that I didn't mention, so thank you.
Go for it, bud.
I want to read you a letter by Randy Vopel, the former mayor of the city of Santee, to the Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Los Angeles, dated January 4, 2001. Dear Consul General, please accept my personal greetings and good wishes as you assume your new posting as Consul General. I am new to my position as well, freely elected November 7th, sworn in December 5th, 2000, Mayor of Santee, population 58,000 souls. I am writing in reply to your letter dated December 27, 2000, requesting that no recognition or support be given to the Falun Gong organization. This letter has no official standing or authority and does not represent the city of Santee. However, I am granting you the courtesy of a reply as an individual mayor. Please be advised that in order for the city of Santee to take any kind of official action for or against any organization, I must get a majority vote of our city council, 5 members freely elected by our citizens, in favor. I must also, even if I get the approval of our elected officials, make certain it does not violate the very powerful individual freedoms granted under our Constitution. If the city exercises power to regulate any individual or group, they may bring the city government to a higher authority. That higher authority is to sue us in the court system. The courts often overrule governments when freedom or civil rights are violated. Even if our elected officials' actions are legal, we may be eliminated from office power if a majority of the very people we regulate decide we must go. I rather like it this way. What good, sir, you ask for in this letter is impossible for any constitutional mayor to do. On a personal note, with due respect to your position and nation, I am a member of the oldest constituted government in the history of the world. I believe in the power and freedom of the individual over the government. I am the same man that would protest my government's actions if I disagreed, but would lay my life down to defend our Constitution and laws. Your letter personally chilled me to the bones. I was shocked that a communist nation would go to this amount of trouble to suppress what is routinely accepted in this country. What you consider to be of great threat to the People's Republic of China is a political walk in the park in the United States. I have the greatest respect for the Chinese people in your country and everywhere else in the world, but must be honest in my concern for the suppression of human rights by your government, as evidenced by your request. Request denied. Respectfully, Randy Vopel, Mayor. P.S. I will have a favorable mayor's proclamation for the Falun Gong out as soon as possible.
So, if you notice on the image, his signature's there. You can, if you really want to do your homework and go and see if that person was actually the mayor, etc., please do. it's also interesting that one of the images that was shown during her reading of it was a banner. You can see the banner. Now, I've made, oh my gosh, I've probably made 50 of those in my time as a practitioner. I've made 50 of those different banners showing, for example, the images of practitioners' bodies who have had all of their organs taken out of them and then cremated. Uh, the faces, I think, in one of our Louis, was it that lady's face who had been beaten with the electric batons? These sorts of images, albeit harsh to our senses, especially our Western senses, are very important for us to understand how severe and how basically evil this persecution is of Falun Gong in China. And probably more, even more than that, even more so, I would say, how evil it is that the regime that's doing it to Falun Gong is trying to convince you that we're bad. There's something wrong with us. Now, this is intensely difficult, to be honest, for family men and women like you and me to take the time to comprehend. But I often do it this way, especially since I've been doing humanitarians work ever since I became a practitioner. When I became a practitioner, the first thing it did was make me think, holy moly, I've got to give back something to this world and these people around me. And so, of course, I've been doing different humanitarians work for a long time. And one of the aspects of the humanitarians work that I've done is just to allow myself to sit back and think, if I really wanted to make you, the person who's watching us right now, look bad, or look bad to everyone around you, what would I have to do? What would I have to do? And all sorts of methods that you could possibly think up in your own mind to achieve that, that's what this government, the CCP, does to Falun Gong. And they've got billions to spend on it. Billions. So they've got I think Louis mentioned it the other day, the 50 cent team, which is basically, must be thousands, I reckon, of innocent Chinese people whose sole job it is to get on the internet and write bad things about Falun Gong in online chat things like Reddit or whatever, all of those things, make videos about it, do this, do that, to basically put out a massive slur campaign. Now, as I mentioned, that's only the part of the soft stuff to make you think that we're bad. When it comes to the hard stuff, that's what Des, my father-in-law, has experienced. He's a Westerner, for crying out loud. In his own country, in his own home, that was able to be done. And you might be thinking, Mike, maybe it wasn't actually them. Maybe it wasn't. But it makes a hell of a lot of sense because they didn't steal a thing. They only smashed the things that Des uses to actually do anything in the way of making banners and all of those elements. And they put something on his screen that's terrifying, which is basically saying, this is you next.
Mm.
It would make sense to me. And it would probably make sense to 50,000 other blokes and women who they can just use a bit of their own nous as well.
Actually, Michael, to give a bit of context to what you just said, I don't know exactly when it was, but in the last few years, there was a whistleblower that came out of China and moved to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they mentioned was in Australia, there's 1,000 CCP spies, and basically we all think of 007 and that kind of thing when we
Otherwise,
hear of spy 007, but
nothing pretty like that.
no, it's not glamorous. Basically, as far as I understand, their job is to effectively enforce the Chinese Communist Party's laws, and well, not their laws, but their agenda in the country that they're operating in. So yeah, it's not an isolated case where people in Australia or around the world in the US have been threatened or physically harmed by people linked to the Chinese Communist Party.
Yep. And on top of that, when I was in Melbourne, there was a surgeon, a Chinese surgeon, who defected to Australia, who was actually one of the surgeons who was harvesting the organs, extracting the organs of these Falun Gong practitioners in China. He, I remember this clearly because I was in Melbourne. He came to Melbourne. This man was in my state. And so, of course, it was a big deal. You can imagine what this is to us to have someone like that who is doing something so bad, but actually his heart is good. He did it because in China, you do what you're told. It's pretty much as simple as that. And he did it and did it and did it until it was killing him. I remember him coming to a group meeting. That's right, because it was a big deal. There was a big meeting, and he was sharing that it felt like it was killing him. It was killing him because he was doing this to others, and eventually he just couldn't do it anymore. But I could see in the man's eyes, he was hollow. It had killed a part of him. Imagine if one of us was forced to do that, being a doctor, being a surgeon. Like it's beyond comprehension. And this is part of what Louis and I want to just give to you is this truth so that you don't just be blind in this. There's so much misinformation in our world, obviously. We all know it now. In 10, 15 years ago, it was conspiracy theorists. And then it quickly became, wow, that's really interesting. And now it's almost common knowledge. So with this, it's exactly the same. Now that you're getting this, now that you're beginning to realize it, just keep it in the back of your head. Don't let it go anywhere. Because, and I said last episode, think about this. My own mother in law's sister was so caught up in what she saw as the lies that the CCP had put out that no matter what my mother in law said to her, she wouldn't believe her. And what an absolute disaster that is for a person. This is an intelligent lady that we're talking about. She's not an imbecile by any means. Actually, she's an incredible artist as well. For a person to take in such rubbish and then because of that decide, well, even though the Chinese government's one of the worst entities in our world, I'm just going to go along with what they said. Anyway, then start to think actually Falun Gong is a cult, as the regime calls it. We're the most beautiful cult you'll ever see in your life, by the way. Especially in our yellow t-shirts that we were talking about. And keep in her mind that kind of villainous, twisted yuck.
Mm.
and then go against her own family. This is her own sister who's benefited in so many ways from, in her heart, from practicing something of such a beautiful Buddhist school practice. So this is how serious it is. Louis and I and every other person who practices Falun Gong does not want any more people to fall for this garbage. It's really serious now. And in another episode, like Louis said, we're going to go through some of the materials that have come out that show the what's his name, Xi Jinping or something, the president of China, only in the last about 6 months has made a massive push forward, just like they did in China back in 97, sorry, when they decided to commit genocide basically on Falun Gong. He's made the same surge and push now in our countries: Australia, America, Spain, Lebanon, Africa, everywhere. That is their agenda, is to come after us now. So, and you might say, aren't you guys terrified? Not, not terrified at all. Louis, are you terrified?
No.
Because one of the biggest reasons for me is I have every faith that the good, smart, beautiful people in our government are not going to go along with that kind of garbage. Just like you saw with that American mayor who said most politely, but with a hammer that was like a sledgehammer in feeling, you guys are bad and just stay away from us. That mayor even mentioned he gives his life for that, for the principles of his constitution, what the constitution was built upon. Those beautiful principles, and they're all very much spiritual principles. So, and of course, the American Constitution has lots of things we could debate, but at its core, we all know many things have been twisted, but at its core, that's what that man was talking about. The beauty of the freedom of belief, the freedom to be able to speak, the freedom to be able to believe in a divine principle that you wish to follow. Louis, wrap us up with some good things. I'm not
Yeah,
putting
well,
anything.
I feel like I'm on the spot. Yeah, there's a lot more that can be said, but we're going to keep making episodes, and we'll keep it short. Otherwise, it could be here forever. But
You notice
much as,
Louis hardly speaks, and I can't
yeah,
stop speaking. But
as
that's
much as
a
I'd like to
combination of something.
elaborate on some of those things, but yeah, I I do recommend heading over to the Ganjing channel, the YouTube channel, and checking out the collections or the playlist that we're putting together. To if you have any queries and you want to get a bit more information outside the episode, then head over there, and I'll put a link to it in the description. Yeah, and we'll keeping you updated, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have a lot more smaller videos going up. I've already done 4 or 5. Maybe Louis will start doing them.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of great people. One from the States in Long Island, who I actually used to do a show with, Quentin. And he's an African American on Long Island. And you wait till you meet the guy. You want to adopt him. He's just an amazing person. And of course, he's a Falun Gong practitioner. So we've got people coming in for interviews. Stay with us. Even if one of the things too is with what we're giving to you, even if you get it and you're solid, keep with us, because we'll give you more information about things. Um, we'll keep giving you an insight into the world. The contrast of how our worlds were before Falun Gong and after Falun Gong, all of these aspects. Just, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Stay with us, and also write back. Give us some comments. Let us know that you're out there, and let me know how much I talk too much, and any other thing you want to hear about. There might be something that you've got a question about. I would love to hear your questions. Like, all right, listen, Louis keeps saying this, and that. I've heard the complete opposite from here. Why is that? Guys, we're here for you. So you want to ask a question, just ask. Louis and I'll make sure we keep up with the comments that are being made. And in the future, if it gets a bit too much, we'll just make an email address, and you can just write an email to it. We'll keep that up to date. And of course, we'll mention you on the show. So thank you, Louis, again.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll see you soon. Thank you,
See you,
guys.
everyone. Good night.